I think another aspect to
Mm-hmm.
that is when you're looking at, we're still on the procurement
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Like you go, well, I went on Amazon and I found the exact same thing that the military paid $300 for. I spent $30. And then you go, well, where is that from? Let's go on
Yeah.
Amazon. Oh, that's from China. Well, the US isn't going to buy something for the warfighter, especially a technology that's built and made in China or
Yeah.
pretty much anywhere except for certain, and I know this because I've been doing commercial off the shelf and I've
Mm-hmm.
done procurement. If you're the US, the UK, Canada, Five Eye,
Mm-hmm.
we'll purchase those things. But if you are Russia, China,
Yeah.
even the Philippines, places like that, we're not, the US is not buying those things. It's cheaper, but we're just
Yeah.
not going to buy it.
Yeah, I think we just held up F-35 production. I want to say it was a couple of months ago because we
Yes.
found out that one of the magnets used in the F-35 was made of a rare earth metal from China.
Mm-hmm.
And China, the Russians, they try to influence U.S. elections, U.S. political process. The Chinese, they haven't really done that yet, but one of the things you do see them trying to do is influence environmental process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are some dude who's in Wyoming and someone wants to open up a rare earth mine in Wyoming, and you really don't want those trucks rumbling through your quiet little neighborhood, and you start your own little organization to prevent this mine from being built, someone from China hands you a check for $50,000. What are you going to say? Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be
And
like
it, it
50
it's in
million.
your yeah, it's in your best interest not to have this mine there, but it's in China's best interest for the US not to mine anything,
Yeah.
right? Because they want all the rare earths coming from China. They want windmills made with Chinese rare earths and electric motors made from Chinese rare earths and the catalytic converters made from Chinese rare earths. So yeah, that you tend to see China trying to influence U.S. environmental policy. Um,
Absolutely. That's my
mhm.
big push with the African continent
Hmm.
is that the US is getting pushed out. And I worked on the African continent
Yeah.
for, well, from 2014 to 2018. And I was there, not working side by side, but I was living side by side
Yeah.
with Chinese businessmen
Yeah.
who were there just to procure rare earth minerals. And they were trying to push us out. And it's starting to work. I've been out for a while. It's working now. Russia is pushing the West out, and I think people have this America first conversation, and they go get out of all of these countries and continents and get away, and I go, that's true. We should be out of some places, but somewhere like the African continent, where we are making headway with terrorists and insurgents,
Yeah.
and we are getting access to some rare earth minerals, is a net positive for the United States.
I can tell you if you are it's a tough deal, right? If you are a dictator in Africa, all right, you're running some country in Africa, and the Chinese come to you and they say, "Hey, we're going to offer you these Huawei 5G cell phone towers, all right, and you can put them up all over your country for 20 cents on the dollar. We'll put them up for you. Your economy will benefit. Your people will be able to check the status of their goods in the market over a cell phone. Um, and you'll be able to skim off 20%, putting your rich friends in charge of the new cell phone company. And all
Mm-hmm.
we ask is that you let us listen in on your cell phone transmissions once in a while. And then you go to the US and say, hey, the Chinese offered me cell phone towers for 20 cents on the dollar. What do you give me? And we go, oh, well, don't do that. Well, what,
Which is what
what,
I
what,
say. Don't do it.
what, what are you going to do if you're this African dictator? You're going to go,
Right.
well, one of these paths leads me to being rich, and the other is, not so
Yeah.
good.
There may be a coup
So,
in my future, but
yeah.
at least
So
I will be financially secure.
I can see how China might be pushing us out because, although actually, I think there was just recently there was I think it was in Kenya. China built a railway,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
the Kenya took out a loan from China to build this railway, but nobody actually takes this railway. So Kenya is in a lot of debt to China, and actually some of China's infrastructure projects are failing. And people are going, why the hell did we take out a loan to buy this thing? We allowed the Chinese to build it with Chinese steel, Chinese labor, Chinese concrete, and now like this project isn't holding up, right?
Yep.
So that can be an issue as well, buyer's
I
remorse.
I think it is an issue, and on our podcast, which nobody listens to, but I try to bring out, especially like the new Silk Road that
Yeah,
I can't remember now
the
what
Belt and Road
it's really
Initiative.
called. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Belt Road. Um, I called out countries for being part of that
Oh.
because China is trying to influence not for your financial improvement, it's for their own. And so
Uh-huh.
you are going to be left, and now countries are seeing that where they're being left behind
Yeah.
because it's not productive for China. It's not increasing their economy, and so they just push it away. And what I tell people when I worked on the African continent, what we did, even as an intel analyst,
Hmm.
we were in countries like Burkina Faso,
Hmm.
Chad, Niger, and we were building communities. We were building schools
Yeah.
on our own, my own dime. Look,
Yeah.
I was a contractor. Uh, no one, this wasn't government procured. I spent money to build schools and
Hmm.
build certain infrastructure in Africa because I loved the people there. And I worked alongside Chinese businessmen who did not do that. All they cared about was what are the rare earth elements, and if we get those rare earth elements, that's completely for me and for the CCP. And I try to call that out. um, and so as we head into 2025, and I don't want to take too much of your time, I'll take as much as you want. I'll be here for 4 hours, Ryan. You tell me when to stop. But what are we
I have a
looking at
hard
in
stop at
2025?
2, and I probably need. I'm going to be on TV in a couple of hours, and at 2 o'clock, so I gotta get off to change clothes and should probably
Good deal.
shave. So.
Good deal. Yeah, for sure. But what are you looking for
Hmm.
2025? And then we'll wrap up this conversation.
Okay, so for 2025, I guess what I'm looking for is a new change in the White House, right?
Hmm.
Would We're gonna have to see how that affects the globe in the sense that you now have a wild card who may not necessarily act the way people thought he was going to act. One good example is the H-1B visas, where
Absolutely.
you have all of these Trump supporters who they genuinely expected, oh, America first. We're not going to have these H-1Bs in our country anymore. And Trump was like, yeah, we're probably going to extend that program. And now you have these people feeling betrayed. Well, I did a video on that one where I said, like, look, there's just not enough American engineers. Now, I'm
Hmm.
talking about computer science people, not necessarily techs, which would be like the IT guys, the guys who come and fix your printer. We have plenty of those, but when I went to school for computer science, it's a lot of second generation Indian kids.
Yep.
The thing, it was half Indian kids and then half white kids. And after Calc 1, it was Indian kids and me.
Yep.
And
Well,
like
what I
people
really
got
appreciate about
mad.
it, your video with that
Yeah.
was your talk about like, but if you want a clearance, yeah, you're going to
Yeah.
be an American, and you're going to have this kind of stuff. But for the stuff Elon Musk wants to do, that is going to be H1 Bravo.
It might be. If you're working for Tesla, if you're working for SpaceX, you're going to need a clearance.
Right.
But for one of the issues that I've seen, at least when in the computer science arena, is that you have a lot of Americans who they're told by their parents, all right, you got to go to college. Oh, and they go like, well, I really like video games, so maybe I'll be a computer programmer. And maybe they're pretty good at like building their own game rig or something like that, right? And so then they get to college, they do computer science, they get through the first year just fine, mainly because they haven't really taken any computer science courses. And then the second year, when they have to take calculus, that's where they go, oh crap, this is actually hard.
Yep.
And they drop out, go information systems. And then they wonder, like, how come I'm not getting these high paying jobs when I'm in IT? Well, it's because everyone who dropped out went information systems. And if you only toughed it out, you would have stayed and you
Right.
would have gotten that computer science degree, you'd have a job by now. Although I shouldn't speak that that poorly about it, because there are some people who have graduated from. I know there is a hiring issue right now with younger people who are trying to get their foot in the door. There aren't a lot of entry level computer science jobs anymore. That is an issue, and those
Yep.
people, I understand their grievances, because they were promised you're going to have this $100,000 job as soon as you graduate, and if they get an interview, now they're asking 85K. And
Yep.
I think a lot of that has to deal with there are those jobs, but they don't want to move to Nashville, right? They want to work in
Or
San
Austin.
Francisco or Austin, right?